As a black woman, I bring the gifts of my ancestors. I am their dreams, their hopes, their visions, their memory of what the slave masters have done to them. I celebrate my blackness, and I continue to be a mother, a grandmother, a community old woman that literally hundreds of children that I've brought up over the years. I've been a foster mother since 1960. In 1971, the borough put me up for an MBE, said the Queen hadn't considered anybody who had looked after children or community relations. I have to hide my face. I had to beat up this police at Lewisham station that they beat this old woman. I went and battered him. I turned it down and said I didn't want an MBE because I hadn't a good enough dress to wear it on. And the reporter was so angry, it came to see me. He said, "Madam, what do you want?" And I said to him, I want a house, extra beds that when the police knock my door in the night. I want a wardrobe and a dress, and with all the dressing gowns and everything else. I want a cabinet with sheets and pillow slips that I can take in these children to look after them. "Madam, hundreds of English people will please if the Queen will give them an MBE." So I thought about it and I said, well, do you think you can put it up for sale or in exchange for what I want? He was so angry he just walked out of my house. When the mayor heard about it, sent the social services and said he wanted a report about this woman who is being rude to the Queen. So I then got invited to a civic lunch in the town hall. And when they was persuading me, I said, I didn't want it. And she said, "Oh, please listen to what the mayor." So he said he's going to give me the house. I said I didn't want the house alone, I want everything else that went with it. The officer stood up and he said, could I explain to you, madam, that it's the first time Lewisham has ever been awarded one of these awards, and it's the first time you're the first black woman living in Britain, and you're living in Lewisham, and you're going to have this award, and we want you to have it. So since they agreed to give me all that I wanted, I took this award in 72. All this went on until 72 before I decided, yes, I was going to have it. At the weekends, I always used to have white children come. The social worker would bring them. This weekend, this white child, on Tuesday they came to take her away. And this child started crying, went out in the garden and said she wasn't going. I understand the social worker said to her, "Do you want to stay here and call these black people auntie and uncle?" Another child came in and told me. So me, who was not as polite as I am now, went out and asked the social worker to leave my house. The director of social services took this child inside, I understand, and asked her why she wanted to stay there. She was 11 years old, and she said until then, nobody never kissed her and put her to bed, and nobody never said prayers. And this child said when she see me kissing all of them and covering them, she didn't think I was going to kiss her as well because she was the only white child there. And every night since then, although they all pretended to be asleep, I cover all of them and kiss them and cuddle them and pray for them and then leave the room. And she wasn't leaving here. I'm hurting because this last week I had to turn to a white girl from the house, and one of my staff reported and said I was a racist. So I'm still hurting from that. So that's why I'm telling you something about my background. That as far as I'm concerned, children was children. I'm the daughter of a slave. And I cannot forget where I come from. And as the sister says, we are the people who create. We are the people who educate. We are the people who teach. We are the people who are the providers. When I started a youth club in Deptford, a white minister heard me talking about what I was doing with the police and the black young people. In those days, black boys weren't allowed to stand up at a bus stop. And they used to come to youth club, and they used to come to this disco from all over London. And because there was hundreds of them coming, the fights used to happen with the white boys. The priests from Deptford used to be on one side of the road with the white boys, and I used to be on the other side with the black ones. We then got a building of our own because the church people was fed up of what was going on. The school, the head of the school, come to see me because these children coming in to school, doing homework. And she never, all the years she was teaching there, it never. In this church youth club that I run, I used to have school. So when we got the center bill, we asked them to name it. And the price was £1. In those days, £1 was so much. And I think 3 or 4 of them called it Moonshot. And so we had a library, either books written by black people or about black people. That was my reason to try to educate all who came there about their ancestors and what we were about. I started a group teaching young women about food. We did something downstairs to teach them about mechanic, how to look after their bicycle and their motor cars. We have got to begin to not to be ashamed of what has happened to us, but to think what we were before we were colonized, the way we were. We have got to begin to think of how we can educate our children. We have got to begin to love, to understand what it is to love your children. Over and over I hear people say, I can't forgive myself. I want to say that life is about forgiveness. When somebody do you something wrong, if you don't forgive them, they do you and they're gone. You carrying the burden all the time. Forgiveness is not for the person who has done you wrong. Forgiveness is for yourself. Free yourself of that and move on. Recognize who you are. Be proud of who you are. Let us concentrate on loving ourselves, working for our neighbors' children as well. And my plea to my whole community all the time is to observe forgiveness. Free yourself from the burden and set yourself free to work for your own freedom. Work, use the energy to love. Only give what you want to receive.
Thank you very much.